Alright, so let's get started. Um, let's start with a review of differentiation, and we'll first go through what is a gradient. So, remember the gradient is essentially how steep a curve is and in what direction. Alright, so if the curve is sloping upwards, then the tangent has a positive gradient. Alright, so hopefully you guys have a little bit of a memory about what a tangent is. So a tangent is a straight line that has the same gradient as a point on the curve and intercepts the curve at that point. So this red line here is a gradient to the blue curve at point A because, as you can see, they have the same gradient at that point. Alright, the steepness of the blue curve here is the same as the steepness of the red curve throughout, and they have the same coordinate, right, because they intercept. So, if the derivative at a certain value A is greater than 0, then we kind of colloquially say that the function f of x is increasing at that coordinate A. If the curve is sloping downwards, then this is the opposite. So if it's sloping downwards, then the tangent has a negative gradient, and as you can see, the tangent to this curve here has a negative gradient. It's sloping downwards. And if the derivative at any point A is less than 0, then we say that the function is decreasing at that point A. Alrighty, now let's hop into the turning points. So, if a curve is flat at a particular point, it means that the tangent has a gradient of 0. Alright, the gradient is 0. So, if the gradient at A is equal to 0, we call this a stationary point at A. Alright, if the gradient is 0, we have a stationary point, and this is when the curve is flat. So as you can see here, all of our tangents are flat, which means on all of these points on the curves, we have a stationary point. And as you can see, there's a few different types of stationary points. So we have a maximum turning point, and as you can see, this is where the stationary point is like the top of a mountain. It's the maximum value. We have the minimum turning point, where the turning point is a minimum value, like the bottom of a valley. And then we have stationary points of inflection. So these are where we don't have a minimum or a maximum situation. We have the curve kind of having a positive gradient, flattening out, and then continuing off in a positive gradient, or vice versa, having a negative gradient, flattening out, then continuing on with a negative gradient. Alright, so those scenarios where we don't have a turning point, those are called stationary points of inflection. Alrighty, so this information about the stationary points has application when we're getting into the word questions more so, and optimization. We'll get onto that later on, about here. Alright.